Imposter syndrome is a pervasive psychological phenomenon that affects millions, hiding in plain sight behind masks of confidence and competence. It's a feeling many of us know all too well, whether it's the nagging voice that questions our abilities at work, or the crippling self-doubt that holds us back from pursuing our dreams. As we delve into the fascinating world of imposter syndrome, get ready to confront the shocking truth: you're not alone in feeling like a fake, and understanding this syndrome may just be the key to unlocking your true potential. At its core, imposter syndrome is characterized by an internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite external evidence of competence and achievement. This feeling of inadequacy can stem from various factors, including societal pressures, personal expectations, and past experiences. One of the major psychological frameworks that sheds light on imposter syndrome is the concept of self-efficacy theory, developed by Albert Bandura. Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief in their ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task. When people struggle with imposter syndrome, they often have a distorted perception of their self-efficacy, underestimating their capabilities and overestimating the abilities of others. The work of psychologists like Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes has been instrumental in our understanding of imposter syndrome. Their 1978 study introduced the concept as a specific psychological pattern, highlighting its prevalence among high-achieving individuals, particularly women. They identified common characteristics associated with imposter syndrome, such as an intense fear of failure, a tendency to attribute success to luck rather than ability, and a persistent feeling of being an imposter. Over time, our understanding of imposter syndrome has evolved to recognize its widespread presence across various demographics and professions. Research has shown that it's not limited to women or specific fields, but can affect anyone, regardless of their background or accomplishments. For instance, studies have found that entrepreneurs, academics, and even mental health professionals can experience imposter syndrome, highlighting the need for a more nuanced understanding of this phenomenon. Experimental studies have also provided valuable insights into the psychological mechanisms underlying imposter syndrome. For example, research on cognitive biases has shown how individuals with imposter syndrome tend to engage in self-destructive thought patterns, such as rumination and negative self-talk. Additionally, investigations into the role of social comparison have revealed how people with imposter syndrome often compare themselves unfavorably to others, further exacerbating their feelings of inadequacy. One of the controversies surrounding imposter syndrome is whether it should be classified as a distinct psychological disorder or simply viewed as a common experience that many people face at some point in their lives. While some argue that it warrants specific diagnostic criteria and treatment approaches, others contend that it's an inherent aspect of human insecurity, not necessarily requiring pathological labeling. In everyday life, understanding imposter syndrome can have a profound impact on how we approach our personal and professional goals. By recognizing the signs of imposter syndrome, individuals can begin to challenge their negative self-perceptions and develop more realistic assessments of their abilities. For instance, imagine a talented artist who consistently doubts their creative skills, attributing their successes to luck rather than talent. By acknowledging these thoughts as symptoms of imposter syndrome, they can start to reframe their mindset, focusing on their actual accomplishments and the value they bring to their craft. Therapeutic approaches, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, have been shown to be effective in addressing imposter syndrome. CBT helps individuals identify and challenge their distorted thought patterns, replacing them with more balanced and constructive self-perceptions. Additionally, techniques like mindfulness and self-compassion can aid in developing a more accepting and supportive relationship with oneself, reducing the grip of imposter syndrome. For example, research has suggested that neurobiological differences, such as variations in dopamine and serotonin levels, may influence an individual's propensity for self-doubt and anxiety. Common characteristics of imposter syndrome. Furthermore, sociocultural factors, like the pressure to conform to certain standards or the lack of representation and diversity in various fields, can also exacerbate feelings of inadequacy and imposterdom. She would often attribute her company's success to luck or the work of her team members, rather than acknowledging her own role as a visionary leader. This self-perception persisted even when she received numerous awards and recognition for her innovative approach to business. This case highlights the concept of imposter cycle, which was first introduced by Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in their groundbreaking 1978 study. The imposter cycle refers to the self-reinforcing pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that maintain the imposter experience. In this cycle, individuals with imposter syndrome tend to set unrealistically high goals for themselves, which leads to a sense of anxiety and self-doubt when they are not met. This, in turn, reinforces their belief that they are imposters, further exacerbating the cycle. Another significant aspect of imposter syndrome is its relationship with social comparison theory. Research has shown that individuals with imposter syndrome often engage in upward social comparison, where they compare themselves unfavorably to others who they perceive as more competent or successful. This can lead to a distorted view of their own abilities and a heightened sense of inadequacy. For instance, a graduate student may compare their research skills to those of a renowned expert in the field, rather than comparing themselves to their peers or recognizing their own strengths and accomplishments. The implications of imposter syndrome on mental health and well-being are also worth exploring. Studies have found that individuals with imposter syndrome are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and burnout due to the chronic stress and self-doubt associated with this phenomenon. Furthermore, the pressure to maintain a facade of competence can lead to feelings of disauthenticity and disconnection from one's true self. In terms of therapeutic approaches, mindfulness-based interventions have shown promise in helping individuals manage imposter syndrome. By cultivating a greater awareness of their thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations, individuals can learn to recognize and challenge the distorted thought patterns that contribute to their imposter experience. Additionally, techniques such as self-compassion and cognitive restructuring can aid in developing a more realistic and supportive relationship with oneself. It's also essential to consider the role of systemic and cultural factors in perpetuating imposter syndrome. For example, research has highlighted how certain professions, such as academia or medicine, can foster a culture of competition and perfectionism that exacerbates feelings of inadequacy and imposterdom. Moreover, the lack of diversity and representation in various fields can lead to feelings of tokenism and self-doubt among underrepresented groups. The concept of imposter guilt is another fascinating aspect of imposter syndrome, which refers to the feeling of guilt or shame that individuals experience when they perceive themselves as undeserving of their achievements. This can lead to a sense of disconnection from one's accomplishments and a reluctance to acknowledge or celebrate them. For instance, a writer may feel guilty about receiving accolades for their work, believing that they don't truly deserve the recognition. As we delve deeper into the complexities of imposter syndrome, it's essential to explore the role of self-perception and how individuals with imposter syndrome tend to attribute their successes to external factors rather than internal abilities. This phenomenon is often referred to as external attribution, where individuals believe that their achievements are due to luck, circumstance, or the help of others, rather than their own skills or efforts. Research has shown that this external attribution can be a coping mechanism for individuals with imposter syndrome, allowing them to temporarily alleviate feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. However, it also perpetuates the imposter cycle, as individuals continue to doubt their abilities and attribute their successes to external factors rather than acknowledging their own competence. One significant study that illustrates this concept is the work of psychologist Richard Solomon, who explored the role of self-perception in imposter syndrome. Solomon found that individuals with imposter syndrome tend to have a distorted view of themselves, perceiving themselves as less capable and less deserving of success than others. This distorted self-view can lead to a range of negative consequences, including decreased motivation, reduced self-confidence, and increased stress and anxiety. In terms of therapeutic approaches, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, has been shown to be effective in helping individuals with imposter syndrome challenge and modify their negative self-perceptions. CBT involves identifying and challenging distorted thought patterns, such as external attribution, and replacing them with more balanced and realistic appraisals. For example, an individual with imposter syndrome may believe that they only received a promotion due to luck or the help of others, rather than their own abilities. A therapist using CBT might help this individual identify and challenge this thought pattern, encouraging them to consider alternative explanations for their success, such as their hard work and dedication. Another important aspect of imposter syndrome is its relationship with perfectionism. Research has shown that individuals with imposter syndrome often have high standards for themselves and strive for perfection in their work or personal lives. However, this perfectionism can be a double-edged sword, as it can drive individuals to achieve great things, but also lead to increased stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. The concept of perfectionistic self-presentation is particularly relevant here, which refers to the tendency for individuals with imposter syndrome to present themselves as perfect or flawless to others, while secretly feeling inadequate or incompetent. This can lead to a sense of disauthenticity and disconnection from one's true self, as individuals feel pressured to maintain a facade of perfection rather than being honest about their strengths and weaknesses. To illustrate this concept, consider the example of a successful business leader who appears confident and self-assured on the surface, but secretly struggles with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. This individual may feel pressure to maintain a perfect image, even if it means hiding their true feelings and vulnerabilities from others. However, this perfectionistic self-presentation can ultimately perpetuate the imposter cycle, as individuals continue to doubt their abilities and feel like they are living a lie. In conclusion, our exploration of imposter syndrome has revealed a complex and deeply personal phenomenon that affects individuals from all walks of life. The key takeaways are clear. Imposter syndrome is not a sign of weakness, but rather a common experience that can be overcome with self-awareness, support, and a willingness to challenge negative thought patterns. As we navigate the challenges of modern life, it's essential to recognize the relevance of imposter syndrome to our own experiences and those of others. By acknowledging and addressing this phenomenon, we can work towards creating a more compassionate and authentic society, where individuals feel empowered to embrace their strengths and weaknesses alike. So, as you reflect on your own relationship with imposter syndrome, remember that the line between confidence and imposture is often blurred, and it's in embracing this ambiguity that we can find true freedom. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.